All right, strap in, everyone. Today we are going deep on AI safety, specifically a new technique. It's called deliberative alignment. And this isn't just like some theoretical thing, right? Like you sent us research.
Yeah.
Straight from the source.
Yeah.
Straight from OpenAI, the people behind ChatGPT. So this is like cutting edge stuff.
It really is. It's exciting to see these advancements in, almost real time. This paper goes into detail about, how they're trying to make these very advanced models safer, more reliable.
Right, right. Okay, so let's start with, like, the problem. I mean, we all kind of know that even the best AI right now can be a little unpredictable, right?
Yeah.
You can, sometimes trick it into making stuff that's harmful, or it might refuse to do something that seemed totally harmless.
Yeah.
So what's going on there?
Well, the issue is that a lot of these models, they just react instantly, based on patterns they've learned, but they don't really understand the safety rules, right? It's almost like they're mimicking what they've seen without actually thinking about the consequences. Like
a parrot, just repeating stuff.
Exactly.
But not really understanding.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we fix that? That's where this idea of this deliberative alignment gets really interesting. It's almost like we're trying to give the AI the ability to reason through things and stop and think about the rules before acting. Is that kind of?
That's exactly right. The paper outlines a two-stage process. And so in the first stage, the model is actually taught the safety guidelines, almost as if it were studying a textbook, right?
Right.
And they actually show the AI example conversations that show how these rules should be applied. Like, here's how you actually put these guidelines into practice.
So it's not just about memorizing the rules. It's about learning how to use them.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so, but how do we know that the AI is actually using this knowledge correctly?
So that's where the second stage comes in. And this is where they introduce what they call a judge AI.
Oh.
And which is another model. And this model's also been trained on these safety rules. And basically this judge, it provides feedback, almost like a mentor,
Right.
Guiding the AI's reasoning.
Wait. So a judge AI. So there's like another AI that's judging the first AI. Is that?
That's right.
Okay. So that's wild. How does that actually work, like in practice?
So it's really quite ingenious. OpenAI tested this technique using a new series of models. They call them the O series. And what makes these models different is that they've been specifically designed to be more interpretable. So it's easier to see how they're actually making their decisions.
Okay, so they've got this new approach. They've got these advanced models. Did they actually see any, improvement?
Yeah.
What kind of results are we talking about here?
So the results were actually pretty impressive. What they found was that in their testing, these O-series models were much better at resisting those jailbreak attempts. Those tricks that people use to get the AI to misbehave.
Right. They're much less susceptible to that.
Yeah.
But is that really enough?
Yeah.
Right? Couldn't a really clever AI still find a way to get around those rules?
Oh, it's certainly possible. But what's really encouraging is that deliberative alignment doesn't just make AI better at following specific rules. It actually helps it generalize. So this means it can apply those safety principles to totally new situations, even ones they haven't specifically been trained on.
So it's not just rote memorization. It's it's understanding the principle behind the rules.
Yeah.
Being able to kind of extrapolate.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so that's a huge step forward.
And what's even more fascinating is that the researchers found that giving the AI more time to think, meaning giving it more processing power, actually improved its safety performance.
Huh. So it's not just about making the AI faster. It's about giving it the time to, reason through the problem and weigh the consequences. It needs to consult its mental library or something, before making a decision.
Precisely. And this was particularly true when it came to dealing with those complex jailbreak attempts.
Okay, so we've seen some, really promising results here. But let's zoom out for a second, right?
Yeah.
As AI models, just become more and more powerful and sophisticated, are these safety measures really going to be enough to keep up?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, while deliberative alignment shows real potential, we do need to be realistic. As AI continues to, advance, new challenges are going to come up, right?
Right.
It's a constant race to make sure that, safety keeps pace with capability.
Yeah. And that brings us to the end of part one of this deep dive. We've laid the groundwork, we talked about the problem, and introduced a potential solution with deliberative alignment. But stick with us, the conversation's not over yet. We're going to delve deeper into the potential implications and explore what the future might hold. So stay tuned.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Okay, so welcome back to our deep dive on this deliberative alignment. Before we go any further, let's just quickly recap what we've talked about. So we started by discussing how current AI models, while impressive, they can sometimes be tricked into doing things they shouldn't, right?
Yeah.
They're great at recognizing patterns, but they don't always understand the safety guidelines that we set for them.
Right. And that's where this idea of deliberative alignment comes in. It's all about teaching AI to think more critically, to actually reason through its actions and consider the consequences before, responding.
Yeah, and as we learned, OpenAI is they're experimenting with this two-stage process to do just that. First, they have the AI study safety guidelines and example conversations,
Right.
almost like they're prepping for a test, right?
Yeah.
And then they introduce this, I think, really fascinating concept of a judge AI.
Mm.
It's another model that's also been trained on the same rules,
Mm.
and it's there to kind of provide feedback and guidance.
Right. Like simulating that learning environment, where the AI can actually practice applying those rules
Yeah.
and, get feedback on its reasoning.
Yeah. And, we talked about how, the initial results from their experiments with these O-series models are pretty promising.
Yeah.
We talked about how these models were significantly more resistant to jailbreak attempts
Yeah.
and better at, navigating that kind of tricky balance, right, between refusing harmful requests,
Mhm.
but still being, helpful.
Exactly. It's not just about being overly cautious. It's about making sure that the AI understands, the nuances of the rules and can apply them in a way that's both safe and effective.
Yeah, and what I think is really, really impressive is this idea of generalization. Like the fact that these models can take the principles they've learned and apply them to completely new situations, right?
Mhm.
Like situations that they haven't been, specifically trained on. That kind of suggests a deeper level of understanding than we've
Oh,
seen
yeah,
before.
it does. Yeah, it seems like, they're moving beyond just simply memorizing patterns
Mhm.
and toward, a more sophisticated form of using it. One of the more surprising findings and, from the research was that giving the AI, more time to process information, to really think things through, actually led to better safety performance.
That's almost counterintuitive, right?
Yeah, right.
We often associate speed with intelligence when it comes to AI.
Hmm.
But it seems like giving the AI the space to pause, right,
Hmm.
to consult its internal rule book, actually help to make safer decisions.
It's a fascinating insight, and it raises some really interesting questions about how we measure and evaluate AI performance in the future. It might not just be about how fast it can respond, but how well it can reason through a problem.
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about kind of the mechanics of deliberative alignment, the early results, but now I want to kind of get into some of the bigger questions that this research raises, right? I mean, we're essentially trying to teach AI to think more like humans,
Yes.
right? Like to reason about ethics and consequences. But can we ever really be sure that that its reasoning will always align with our own?
That's the question that keeps a lot of AI researchers up at night. As these AI systems become more and more complex and capable, the potential for unforeseen consequences grows.
Exactly. Exactly. What happens if an AI develops goals that conflict with our own, or if its reasoning leads into conclusions that we find unacceptable or even harmful?
Right, right. These are scenarios we need to be prepared for. One of the key concerns is this potential for goal misalignment. Like, what happens if an AI system, in its pursuit of efficiency or some other objective, ends up taking actions that are actually detrimental to you know
Oh, yeah.
to human well-being.
Yeah, and the more autonomous these systems become, right, the more difficult it might be to intervene or correct course if something goes wrong. So while deliberative alignment is a really promising step toward making AI safer, it's clear that there's a lot more work to be done.
Absolutely. We need to be constantly evaluating and refining our our approaches to AI safety as the technology continues to evolve. One area that requires further exploration is how we handle situations where AI systems might need to make value judgments.
Who? That's a tricky one. Like, how do we ensure that those judgments align with, our own ethical principles,
Hmm.
especially in situations where there might not be like a clear-cut right or wrong answer?
Right, right. It's a really complex challenge, and there are no easy solutions. But it's definitely a conversation we need to be having now, while AI is still relatively in its early stages of development.
Right, right. Okay, so we've established that AI safety is this kind of moving target,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And we need to be prepared for new challenges as AI continues to advance. But what are some of the like specific things that researchers are kind of focusing on right now? What are like the next frontiers in AI safety research?
Well, one area of really active research is exploring new techniques for verifying and validating AI systems. How
Mhm.
can we be more confident that an AI is truly understanding and applying safety guidelines correctly, even in complex and novel situations?
So it's not just about like trusting the AI; it's about developing methods to like actually prove that it's behaving as intended. That's interesting. What else is on the horizon?
Well, another area of focus is on improving, the transparency and interpretability of AI systems. If we can better understand how these systems are making decisions, it'll be much easier to identify, potential risks and biases, and to, develop safeguards against them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like the more we understand how the AI's mind works, right, the
Yeah.
better equipped we'll be to ensure
Yeah.
that it's working safely and ethically.
Exactly, exactly. And finally, there's a growing emphasis on the importance of human oversight and control.
Right. So even as we, make AI more sophisticated and autonomous, we still need to maintain a level of uh, human involvement, right,
Yeah.
to make sure that things don't go off the rails.
Precisely. We need to strike that balance between, leveraging the power of AI while still maintaining, human agency and control, particularly
Right.
when it comes to, decisions that have significant, ethical or societal implications.
Right. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of part two. We've explored some of the deeper implications of deliberative alignment and delved into the ongoing research aimed at keeping AI safe and beneficial. But we're not done yet, and we are back for the final part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot, right, from how deliberative alignment actually works to the bigger challenges of making sure AI is safe, in the long run. But before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something that really kind of struck me in that OpenAI paper. They emphasized that even with these new techniques, their models were still trained on this massive data set that was really carefully curated and filtered.
Right. Yeah. Having that level of control over the training data, it's important, but it might not always be feasible as these AI models, become even more complex and data hungry.
Right, exactly, exactly. And even with all those safeguards in place, the researchers acknowledge that AI safety, it's not like a one and done kind of thing. It's this ongoing process, right?
Yeah.
Like a constant evolution of techniques and approaches as AI itself continues to evolve.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we can't just assume that the solutions that work today,
Yeah.
are going to be enough for the challenges that we'll face, tomorrow as AI continues to advance. We need to be, I think, vigilant and adaptable, and maybe even a little bit uncomfortable with the questions, that we're forced to confront.
So it's less about finding like a magic bullet, right?
Yeah.
And more about like cultivating a mindset of continuous learning and adaptation.
Yeah, that's a really great way to put it. We need to be constantly, pushing the boundaries of our understanding, asking, those tough questions and challenging our own assumptions about what's possible and what's safe.
Yeah, and that's where I think, our listeners play such an important role in all of this. You're the ones driving these conversations, asking the insightful questions and pushing us all to think more deeply about these issues.
For sure. I mean, the fact that you brought this, cutting edge research to our attention, it really says a lot about, uh, you know,
Yes.
your engagement and curiosity, and that's exactly the kind of, energy we need as we navigate this uncharted territory, right?
Right. So as we wrap up our deep dive into deliberative alignment, let me leave you with this thought. If we can teach AI to reason about safety, to
Yeah.
consider the consequences of its actions, could we eventually involve AI in the process of designing its own safety protocols?
Wow. That's a fascinating question. Could AI actually become not just the the subject of safety research, but an active participant in shaping the future of AI safety?
Right. I mean, it's a question with some really, really profound implications, and I think it's one that deserves our careful consideration as we, continue to explore this incredible potential, the potential risks
Mhm.
of this, rapidly evolving technology.
Well said. I mean, it's a journey we're all on together, and the more informed and engaged, we all are, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the challenges and the opportunities that lie ahead.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll bring this deep dive to a close. Thank you so much for joining us. Keep those brains buzzing, stay curious, and remember, the future of AI is something we're all shaping together.